Hello and welcome to the I Can Do podcast with Benjamin Lee. We're here to talk about tips and strategies to have an I Can Do mindset. Life is what you put into it. Get the most you can. Here's your host, Benjamin Lee.
All right, it is day 3 of 300, my Ultraspeaking project impromptu podcast. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, go back to the last 2 episodes where I'm going to be using the Ultraspeaking app every day to see how I can improve in my impromptu speaking. This is my new personal challenge, and thank you for coming along on the journey as well. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share this. You should be able to see that. I'm going to set my timer I'll set it for 7.5, so I have a second to go back to the view tab. Here we go. Hello and welcome to a new episode of I Can Do. Today we're talking about my personal Hall of Fame. Last night I was talking to my family, my wife and my son, and we have been in North Texas now for almost 7 years. My son is 13 years old, and so he has spent half of his life in the house that we currently have. So we were just reflecting and thinking about the gratitude or appreciating the gratitude and the fact that we've been able to have a house for this long here in North Texas. When I got married, my wife and I, we had a house in Illinois and then one in Missouri as well. But we went a span of 8 years without having a house when we were in Beaumont, Texas. So I'm saying all of this because as I think about my personal Hall of Fame, my mom comes to mind. Because when I look back at my life growing up, my father was not around. My mom and my dad, they had a great marriage for the first 7 years. My father got into social drinking. Someone had asked me yesterday whether or not I drink alcohol. My answer is no. I used to for a span of time, but I don't drink alcohol due to my faith and what the scriptures teach. And also because I saw my father as he became an alcoholic and just so many of the terrible things that are associated with it. My mom had to be my mother and my father, the number one provider for me and my sister growing up. And it was not easy by any stretch of the imagination. I can remember growing up and things just always felt like they were short. We just never seemed to have enough. We joke about it now, but we would have these cars, the car that, when you accelerate and go forward, you just have this big blast of gas fumes because the car was so cheap and we didn't have a lot of money to get repairs. There was one car, in fact, in the back, if I sat in the back, there was actually a hole where your feet would go. And so you could see the street. And I'm not making this up. It was pretty bad. If that's not accurate, it was fairly close because it was just in really bad shape. So my mom definitely is in my personal Hall of Fame because she sacrificed. And that's what every Hall of Famer is going to do in the NFL, NBA, whatever the case may be. There's sacrifice that is involved. And even though we didn't have much, the terrible cars that we had, for a while we were on food stamps where we just didn't have enough money. So we needed assistance from the government. And I would enjoy those Jiffy cornbread mix, the really cheap cornbread mix, the blueberry cornbread mix. They're not healthy at all. I don't know what those things were. They were not blueberries, I don't believe, but they were something. And they're actually pretty good. But she did really sacrifice quite a bit. She had multiple jobs. She cleaned houses. We helped her clean houses and apartments throughout the years. So I know how to clean a toilet and a kitchen pretty well. But I learned all of that from her. So looking back, I could just see how much of a sacrifice that she had and she made for me and my sister. And that sacrifice showed up financially with her free time. And even now with her health, as she has aged, her body has drastically changed. There was a lot of pressure and a lot of stress that she had to put on herself. I would also say she's in my personal Hall of Fame because she's a strong woman. She sacrificed, but she was also strong. My father, unfortunately, was verbally abusive and also physically abusive. And, no woman should ever have to go through something like that by any stretch of the imagination. So she was a strong woman mentally, spiritually, and she helped me and my sister build our shield of faith in Jesus Christ. It takes a strong woman to raise a family on their own and to lead their children down a right path. There were so many different exit ramps that I could have taken. And there were things that she was doing behind the scenes. I can remember even when I was in college um, that I was getting all these different credit cards, and I think I had about 8 credit cards in college. That was very unwise. But there were some that she hid from me. I didn't even know that I had received until a later time. There were certain girls that thankfully she helped me to go down the other path and other direction. Otherwise, I think my life would be totally different right now. So my mom is definitely in my personal Hall of Fame because of her sacrifice, because of her strength, and then finally, because of her spirituality. She's a woman of God. She took us to worship services every week. We had Bible studies. I can remember we were able to talk about so much when I would come home sometimes from school. We would throw a tennis ball just back and forth, and we would have these conversations, and we'd have conversations about sex. She would say, make sure you keep your pants up, make sure the girls keep their dresses down. Pretty frank conversations about things like that. So her spirituality, reading the Bible to us and making sure that we heard about God and that we heard about Jesus, and understanding that the most important thing in our life or in our lives is following God. So that is one person in my personal Hall of Fame. And maybe you have someone very similar in your Hall of Fame, a person who is strong, sacrificial, even spiritual, that has benefited you. As I think about this personal Hall of Fame and my mom, I'm thankful that my mom is still alive. I'm thankful that we still have time together. I'm thankful that now she worships where I preach here in North Texas. I'm thankful that me and my sister and my mom, or my wife and my son, can help her out from time to time as well. And I'm thankful that I have an opportunity just to share her story, because as I talk about her, it's a good reminder for me and for all of us to make sure that we tell these individuals who are in our personal Hall of Fame how much we appreciate them, make sure that we celebrate them, make sure that we thank them, and make sure that we strive to emulate those positive qualities that they have. So I don't know if my mom is going to hear this. Maybe I'll tell her about this episode. But mom, if you are hearing this, thank you. I love you very much. I appreciate all the laughs that we had throughout the years, and I appreciate the time that we still have together. Thank you so much. Okay, that is today's episode. So who's in your personal Hall of Fame? Be sure to let them know that you love them very much. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow for day 4.